morning, everybody. Welcome to the Education, Elections, and Housing Committee work session. It is February 10th, 9:30 a.m. Really wonderful to see you all. Good to see my colleague, Delegate Acevero, who I got to spend Judiciary Committee a lot of time with last night until 12:22 a.m. So I apologize. I am a little bit sleepy this morning, but for all who get this reference, we are live. You're live, but we are not cats. So good to see you all. Today we are going to be having, we have one item on the agenda, MC 2221 Montgomery County Voting Methods. Presented by Delegate Acevero. We heard this bill in delegation on Friday, so it's fresh in our minds. As you know, the bill authorizes the Montgomery County Council to adopt a ranked choice voting system or an approval voting system for the election of the following: county executive, members of the county council, judge of the circuit court, state's attorney, clerk of the circuit court, register of wills, judge of orphans court, sheriff, and members of the Board of Education. The bill also allows for the implementation of a local law to regulate the ballot format, procedure for tabulating votes, and any other necessary provisions. So I know members, you all received from Rebecca yesterday a couple of important materials. We have with us today for technical expertise, if we have questions, Chris Hughes from the Rank Choice Voting Resource Center. He provided his homework that was requested of him yesterday to the committee. Lots of questions, lots of great questions asked by members about the methodology and how RCV works. He shared lots of great materials that Rebecca put in a Google Drive folder and shared with you. We also have for consideration a sponsor amendment that was shared by Rebecca. And so I'm going to take a moment to recognize our bill sponsor, Delegate Acevero, who to share with us some information about the sponsor amendment and any more info he'd like to share about the bill. Go ahead.
Well, good morning, Madam Chair, and good morning, colleagues. You are up and functioning and doing great, Emily, even though we were up till after midnight. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate the work of the Education, Elections, and Housing Committee subcommittee. For the record, Delegate Gabriel Acevero here to present ranked choice voting, the House Bill 2219. I'm sorry, hold on one second.
21.
Yes. Long night, folks.
Early for all
forgive me.
Yeah.
Please forgive me. So yes, so here to present, wanted to discuss two things that were raised in our delegation meeting. One was an amendment by Delegate Barvey about approval voting, and I wanted to mention it at the time, but Delegate Barvey, to your point, this bill includes approval voting language, so we are good to go on that. And I know that another one of my colleagues in the delegation had requested that there be information around voter education, some language around that. And the amendment that I submitted reflects that. And so those were pretty much the two concerns that were shared with me in terms of amendments. And I just wanted to not only mention that, but then defer to Chris, because I know a lot of folks had some technical questions, and you assigned him some homework, which from what it sounds like, he turned in on time and diligently, and I appreciate that, Chris. And just open it up for discussions. But with that, I thank you all again, and I'll give it back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Delegate. Appreciate your work on this. What we'll do is we'll take first, Chair Barvey, what we'll do is we'll take I see you. We will take a motion on the bill. Or on the amendment rather, then we'll discuss a motion in a second, we'll discuss the amendment, and we'll discuss the bill as amended. And then we can go to questions during that point. So do I have a motion to consider the amendment?
Move the amendment.
Great. Second? Delegate Collison seconds. Thank you. Okay, so now we'll have some discussion on the amendment. Chair Barve.
Yeah, let me begin by apologizing. I should have known that your bill, Gabe, had approval voting in it, and but I want to thank you for considering it as an amendment if it had been needed. I do have a question for the expert on ranked choice voting. I'm much more of a fan of approval voting because I think it's simpler and gets us to the same place. And I certainly oppose it I'm going to vote for the bill, although I oppose ranked choice voting for multi-winner elections. But I have a question about ranked choice voting with respect to single winner elections. And it's this. There are 7 candidates running, candidate 1 who has the most votes and candidate 7 who has the least, and candidate 7 is knocked out in the first iteration, and his or her votes are then redistributed to the remaining 6 candidates. At that point, if candidate 1 or 2 gets a majority, does the process stop, or do we go through eliminating all of them so that we get the secondary votes of all of the candidates? How does that work?
So you can do either of those things, actually. I mean, the winner won't change, right, once someone crosses the majority threshold. So if the example you laid out happens where there's 7 candidates, the 7th candidate who's in last gets eliminated and candidates 1 or 2 gets a majority, you know who the winner is, and you can stop right there.
So let me tell you what my problem with that is. That basically disenfranchises the supporters of candidates 2 through 6 because their secondary vote isn't counted. So let me make the example a little more specific. Let's say candidate 1 is pro-choice, candidate 2 is anti-choice, candidates 3 through 6 are pro-choice, but candidate 7 is anti-choice. If you only distribute the secondary votes of candidate 7, which in this case would go to candidate 2 would win. And then the people who voted for candidates 3 through 6 would say, but I'm pro-choice and candidate 1 was my secondary. Shouldn't a proper way of running ranked choice voting be to eliminate and keep counting until you've used up all the secondary votes of all the candidates whose supporters secondary votes? Don't you think you have to count all of them?
I'm excuse the term, but I'm agnostic on what is the proper way to transfer ballots once you have someone who's crossed a majority. San Francisco does actually run down to the final 2 candidates, so you get what some people describe as, your mandate number. You see what the winning candidate had and what the second place candidate had, and what share of all voters they won, essentially.
Well, I guess the point I'm a little concerned about is that if you don't tabulate all of the secondary votes, you're giving a disproportionate weight to the votes of the people who voted for the least popular candidate. That's my concern, if it's done that way.
Well, I can see your point, but I do think what's happening here is, in your example, the first or second most popular candidate on first choices is the one who ends up winning. And they had a sort of coalition with this last place candidate, which helped them cross that majority threshold. And that's what ranked choice voting is trying to do. But I do also think there's best practices. Well, we generally advise places to also publish their cast vote record, which is the full ballot by ballot data of all rankings in a ranked choice voting election. So voters can see, so the public can see sort of what that support across all the different ballots look like. You can analyze that data and understand where those coalitions formed a little more clearly, which I do think is an interesting feature of ranked choice voting. It does get you that greater depth of information about people's preferences among the different candidates.
Well, I'll just conclude by saying if candidate 1 is pro-choice, candidate 2 is anti-choice, and all but the least popular candidate are pro-choice, then the election is going to be decided by the supporters of the least popular candidate, unless you count all of the secondary votes. That's a concern for me. That's why I prefer approval voting, where you vote for as many people as you want, and the top vote getter wins, kind of like in our elections. But I mean, I think we can all agree that what we have right now sucks. So, you know.
Well, so I think just for clarity, and I appreciate the great back and forth, this bill is enabling language, right, Delegate?
Right, and that's why I'm voting for it, because I wanted to put this argument into the record so that if it actually gets to the council, I'll be able to go to the council and make that argument.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you, Chair Barve. Delegate Queen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is more clarifying. So now with the amendment, the bill is in the same posture as what we passed out last year. Just want to confirm that.
Delegate Acevedo.
Oh, maybe that's council can answer that better.
Yes, last year it included approval voting language. It also included an educational piece. This year it includes approval voting language, and unfortunately, it was an oversight, weren't able to include the voter education language, but that was something that was flagged during our delegation hearing, and you should have received an amendment to reflect that. But yes, that would make it in the same posture as last year.
Okay, I just want to make sure it wasn't anything else may not have, because I'm just now sorry I didn't get a chance to look at the package. So I just want to make sure there's nothing else that possibly we talked about last time in the bill, which we vetted, isn't included. That's all. I'm just trying to confirm.
Thank you, Delegate Queen. Thank you, Delegate Acevedo. Yes, Delegate Stewart.
So I may be going crazy right now, but did we actually hear this bill last year in 2020? Because I'm looking at the Montgomery County delegation website and I only see the bill in
2019.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry to say last session, but I know we talked.
Oh, no. It's not you, Delegate Queen. I think it was said during the hearing a few times, like last year, and I
think time means weird things these days with the pandemic. So
none of us have a sense of time anymore.
In this weird time warp thing. So
none of us have a sense of time anymore.
I just have one question related to the 2019 legislation. The only difference, I basically just did like a side-by-side look at the 2019 bill that we passed out versus this bill. And this is more of a question for council, and it's probably way too nitpicky to even matter. But the only difference between the two versions is one word. And it's either the word and or the word or. And so if you look in page 2 of the bill, it lists all of the possible offices that we could be allowing the county council to empower RCV or approval voting for. And in 2019's version of the bill, it says, here are the following offices, and it uses and. And in this year's version of the bill, it uses or. So I'm an attorney, but not a particularly good one. I worry a little bit about, since we passed a different thing last time, that a court could possibly hold that we were actually empowering the county council to pick one of a list of offices instead of empowering them to select any number, including all of the offices. But that could be just like me being way too anal. But I just wanted to point that out, that there is a difference, and it's the word and or the word or.
Okay, that's a good flag. Kayleen, do you want to share any thoughts on whether there's a reason for that drafting choice?
So unfortunately, I was not assigned to delegation yet, I believe, when this bill was drafted. So I am not off the top of my head aware as to why and or got changed. I could definitely look into that and get back to everyone to let you know if it was intentional or if maybe there was just a mistake. I do believe that perhaps it might have just been unintentional, but I'm not sure. So I can look into that and let everyone know as to why that might have changed.
Yeah, I don't think we necessarily need to hold the bill. Like we could just amend it right now and just switch it back to and. Yeah,
I think that would make sense to me. Kayleen, do you think that would be okay?
Yeah, I think when it's a small change, we could probably just do it without the written amendment.
Okay, so why don't we do this then? Thank you first for Delegate Stewart for flagging that, and Delegate Queen for your question. And so I think what makes sense, since we're on the part of our agenda where we're discussing the First Amendment for which we have existing language, I want to first get to Delegate Carlson, who raised your hand with a question. Then if there are other members who have questions on the First Amendment, we'll answer that, and then we'll vote on that, and then we'll consider the Second Amendment, which is the change from or to and. Then we'll vote on that, and then we'll have a discussion and vote on the base bill as amended by both amendments. So Delegate Carlson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to make sure that the education piece, if it's not in the bill, at least there's an understanding that there would be a major public education program in any case where the council was to implement, because I think it will take some time for, and I suspect Mr. Hughes has seen this, people need to understand how it works to feel safe. And, you know, we're now at a point in time, unfortunately, where people are questioning our voting processes. So we don't want to make it look less transparent. And so, you know, I don't know if the bill needs to be changed, or we just need to be clear with the county council, or.
So Delegate Carlson, this is a really great point. So the amendment that was submitted by Delegate Acevedo includes specific language that it inserts a local law enacted under this subsection shall provide for an educational campaign explaining how to vote using ranked choice voting or approval voting. So that is the amendment that we're considering right now. I apologize, we got it. So it was circulated last night. Many of us were in other committee hearings, lots of stuff going on right now in session. So I
apologize.
No apology needed. It's early for everybody. Session is crazy.
Definitely early for everybody.
Yeah. So are there other questions on this voter education amendment? Okay, seeing none. So do we have a motion? Well, we already have a motion and a second. So we're going to take a vote now on this amendment. So Kayleen, would you please, actually, I think we probably could just do this by voice vote. All those in favor of the sponsor amendment to MC 2221, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, any abstentions? Hearing none, the amendment passes. Now let's consider the Second Amendment that was flagged by Vice Chair Stewart after Delegate Queen's question about the comparison. So this is an amendment on section or page 3, line 2, striking or substituting and. So do we have a motion for that amendment?
Move favorable.
Second.
Second, great. Any discussion? Okay, seeing no discussion, let's do that by voice vote again. All those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the amendment passes. So now we're going to have a motion on the base bill as amended by the two amendments. Do I hear a motion?
Move favorable.
Second.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on the base bill as amended? Great. Okay. So let's do just a quick roll call, please, on this one. So Kayleen?
Delegate Barve,
Yes.
Delegate Collison,
Yes.
Delegate Palakovich-Carr,
Yes.
Delegate Queen,
Yes.
Delegate Stewart,
Yes.
Chair Shetty.
Yes. Okay, thank you, members. The MC 2221 bill passes unanimously as amended with those two amendments. Thank you, Kayleen, for your assistance in drafting the amendments. Thank you, Delegate Acevedo, for your work on this bill. That concludes the work of our work session this morning. Really appreciate you all. We will see